March 2023, gunshots echoed through a quiet Little Rock neighborhood. Inside the home, former WNBA star Edwina Brown lay dying, multiple bullet wounds marking her body. The shooter wasn't a stranger or random intruder. It was her husband, Danny Brown, the same man who, 11 years earlier, had orchestrated the murder of Edwina's boyfriend, Daniel Hill. The same man who had nearly killed her in that attack. The same man she later married. This wasn't just a domestic violence case. It was the final act in a decade-long tragedy of fear, control, and psychological manipulation. Born on July 1, 1978, Edwina Brown was far more than a victim. She was a star who shone brightly on and off the court. Her basketball career took flight when she was recognized as a promising WNBA rookie in 2000, nearly claiming Rookie of the Year honors. Throughout her career, she played 130 professional games and represented American excellence internationally in Lebanon, Austria, Spain, France, and Israel. Her athletic prowess earned her gold with Team USA at the 1998 R. Williams-Jones Cup and bronze at the 1999 Pan American Games. Beyond sports, Edwina's compassion manifested through MAP'd Out, mentoring athletes and providing dreams, an organization she founded to uplift others. On social media, she portrayed a joyful mother who cherished family moments, frequently sharing videos filled with laughter and love. Her public image was one of success, generosity, and familial devotion, a woman who had it all. Yet behind the medals, achievements, and smiling social media posts existed a shadow life few could comprehend. While fans saw a confident athlete who conquered international courts, Edwina navigated a home life dominated by jealousy and control. As she mentored young athletes about reaching their dreams, her own dreams were being systematically dismantled by domestic terror. The woman who once faced the world's top competitors became trapped in a relationship where she couldn't compete, where survival meant submission. The stark contrast between her public triumphs and private suffering reveals how effectively domestic abuse can hide behind closed doors, even for those in the spotlight. How does someone marry the very person who orchestrated their boyfriend's murder? What psychological forces could possibly lead to such a decision? Stay with me through this story, because understanding Edwina's journey might help you recognize warning signs in relationships around you, or even in your own life. This knowledge could save lives. In the coming minutes, we'll trace Edwina's path from celebrated athlete to victim, examining how Danny Brown's jealousy evolved into deadly violence. We'll explore the murder-for-hire plot that claimed Daniel Hill's life and nearly took Edwina's. Most crucially, we'll delve into the psychological aftermath that led her to marry her attacker, and the 11 years of marriage that culminated in her death. Along the way, we'll identify the warning signs that went unheeded, the support systems that failed, and the critical lessons that might prevent similar tragedies. This isn't just a crime story. It's a vital education in recognizing and escaping deadly relationships. Edwina Brown's journey began on July 1, 1978, in Dallas, Texas, where her natural athletic talent emerged early. Growing up in a city passionate about sports, young Edwina found her calling on the basketball court, where her speed, agility, and strategic mind set her apart from peers. By high school, she had developed into a standout player whose name regularly appeared in local sports columns. Her exceptional play earned her a scholarship to the University of Texas, where she transformed from promising talent to genuine star. As a Longhorn, Edwina's performance elevated the entire program. Her college career culminated in her being named to the All-American team and becoming a finalist for the prestigious Naismith Award, recognizing the nation's top collegiate player. The Detroit Shock selected Edwina as the third overall pick in the 2000 WNBA draft, a moment that validated years of dedication and sacrifice. Her rookie season showcased her versatility as she adapted quickly to professional competition, averaging 12 points per game and demonstrating defensive prowess that surprised even veteran players. Coaches praised her work ethic, teammates valued her leadership, and fans admired her graceful yet determined style of play. Basketball wasn't just Edwina's career. It was the foundation upon which she built her identity and reputation. Edwina's professional career spanned continents and collected accolades. Beyond her WNBA success with the Detroit Shock, Phoenix Mercury, and Houston Comets, she became a global ambassador for women's basketball. Her overseas play in 5 different countries demonstrated her adaptability and universal appeal as an athlete. The gold medal she earned with Team USA at the 1998 R. Williams-Jones Cup and bronze at the 1999 Pan American Games cemented her status as an elite international competitor. Off the court, Edwina channeled her passion into MAP'd out, creating pathways for underprivileged youth to access sports opportunities and mentorship. She regularly visited schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods, conducted free basketball clinics, and established scholarship funds for promising young athletes. Her foundation emphasized not just athletic development, but academic excellence and character building. Former beneficiaries of her program often spoke about how Edwina's personal involvement, her phone calls, attendance at their games, and genuine interest in their progress made the difference in their lives. Despite her demanding career, Edwina prioritized family. She met Danny Brown in the early 2000s, and they eventually had children together, creating what appeared to be a stable family unit. Edwina approached motherhood with the same dedication she brought to basketball, determined to be present despite her professional commitments. She coordinated her playing schedule to maximize time with her children, often bringing them to practices and home games. Friends described Edwina as a devoted mother who celebrated every milestone in her children's lives. She attended school events, coached their youth teams, and created family traditions that provided stability amid her traveling career. Her children became the center of her world, a source of pride that surpassed even her athletic achievements. Edwina's social media presence painted a picture of fulfillment and joy. Her accounts featured highlight reels not of basketball games, but of family moments, birthday celebrations, holiday gatherings, and everyday triumphs. She shared videos of dance parties in the kitchen with her children, family vacations to amusement parks, and quiet moments reading bedtime stories. Her posts often included inspirational messages about gratitude, perseverance, and the importance of family bonds. Comments from followers frequently noted her apparent happiness and balance between career and home life. The Edwina Brown that existed online seemed to have successfully transitioned from sports star to content family woman, someone who had found her purpose beyond the basketball court and was thriving in this new chapter. By 2012, Edwina's relationship with Danny Brown had evolved from romantic partnership to co-parenting arrangement. Their connection, which began with promise during her basketball career, had deteriorated under the weight of incompatibility and Danny's controlling tendencies. Friends later revealed that Danny had shown possessive behavior early in their relationship, monitoring Edwina's whereabouts and questioning her interactions with teammates and fans. Despite attempts to make their relationship work for their children's sake, the fundamental issues between them proved insurmountable. Edwina eventually made the difficult decision to end their romantic relationship while maintaining a co-parenting dynamic. She established boundaries and focused on creating stability for their children during the transition. What she couldn't have known was how dangerously Danny would react to these boundaries. For Danny, the end of their relationship wasn't accepted as a mutual decision or even as Edwina's right to choose. Instead, he viewed it as a temporary setback, one he was unwilling to accept. In his mind, Edwina remained his possession, regardless of her wishes. In the aftermath of her separation from Danny, Edwina met Daniel Hill, a younger man whose energy and optimism offered a stark contrast to her previous relationship. Their connection was immediate and refreshing. Daniel approached their relationship with genuine interest in Edwina's thoughts and dreams, treating her with a respect that felt both foreign and exhilarating after years with Danny. Together, they created a home in Little Rock, Arkansas, a fresh start away from the shadows of her past relationship. Daniel embraced Edwina's children, establishing himself not as a replacement father, but as a supportive presence in their lives. For perhaps the first time since her basketball career peaked, Edwina experienced authentic happiness. She began making plans for the future again, speaking of possibilities rather than limitations. Friends noticed the transformation in Edwina. Her laughter came more easily, her posture straightened, and the tension that had become a permanent fixture in her expression melted away. She had found not just a new partner, but a new version of herself, one defined by hope rather than endurance. Danny Brown's reaction to Edwina's new relationship transcended typical jealousy, morphing into dangerous obsession. He began appearing unexpectedly at places where Edwina and Daniel might be, creating uncomfortable confrontations. His text messages to Edwina alternated between pleading for reconciliation and issuing veiled threats about her future with Daniel. The co-parenting relationship deteriorated as Danny used their children as pawns, manipulating pickup times and questioning the children about Daniel's presence in their lives. He spread rumors within their social circle, attempting to isolate Edwina by turning mutual friends against her new relationship. When these tactics failed to separate the couple, Danny's behavior escalated further. He began driving past their home at odd hours, sometimes parking across the street for extended periods. Neighbors reported seeing him examining their property when they were away. Edwina installed security cameras and considered a restraining order, but hesitated, fearing such actions might provoke Danny further. This hesitation, this moment of underestimating the danger, would prove catastrophic. In a calculated move that revealed the true extent of his obsession, Danny Brown contacted criminal associates to eliminate his perceived rival. He paid $20,000 to have Daniel Hill killed, providing detailed information about Daniel's routines and the layout of the home he shared with Edwina. On a quiet evening, as Edwina and Daniel returned home from dinner, the hired gunman was waiting. The attack was swift and brutal. Daniel was shot multiple times at close range, dying almost instantly. Edwina, an unplanned witness, was also shot, sustaining life-threatening injuries that required emergency surgery and weeks of hospitalization. The investigation quickly led to the gunman, who, facing serious charges, revealed Danny as the mastermind. Despite this confession and substantial evidence, the case against Danny Brown faltered. The prosecution's key witness, Edwina herself, refused to testify. Traumatized, terrified, and possibly threatened, she maintained she couldn't identify who had ordered the attack. Without her testimony, prosecutors couldn't secure a conviction for the murder-for-hire scheme. Could you recognize the warning signs that Edwina missed? Would you know when jealousy crosses into dangerous territory? Stay with me as we explore how Edwina made the unthinkable decision to marry her boyfriend's killer, and learn the crucial red flags that might save your life or the life of someone you love. Edwina's survival was nothing short of miraculous. The bullets that tore through her body missed vital organs by millimeters. Emergency responders found her barely conscious, blood pooling beneath her as she clutched Daniel's lifeless hand. In the hospital, she underwent 3 separate surgeries, spanning 16 hours. Doctors prepared her family for the worst, warning that even if she survived, she might face permanent disabilities. For 2 weeks, Edwina drifted between consciousness and darkness. When she finally stabilized, the physical recovery process proved excruciating. Simple movements triggered waves of pain. The athlete who once commanded basketball courts with grace now struggled to sit upright without assistance. Physical therapy sessions became daily battles against her broken body's limitations. Beyond the physical wounds, Edwina carried the psychological burden of having witnessed Daniel's murder. His final moments replayed in her mind. His expression of shock, the sound of gunshots, the warmth of his blood on her hands as she tried desperately to save him. These memories haunted her waking hours and transformed her sleep into a landscape of recurring nightmares. In the months following the attack, Edwina retreated into isolation. The vibrant woman who once lit up rooms fell silent, speaking only when necessary. She abandoned social media, declined visits from friends, and interacted minimally even with family. Diagnosed with severe post-traumatic stress disorder, she exhibited classic symptoms: hypervigilance, emotional numbness, and dissociation. Her trauma response manifested in seemingly contradictory behaviors. She installed elaborate security systems, yet often left doors unlocked. She flinched at loud noises, but would sometimes sit motionless through thunderstorms. Most concerning to those around her was her refusal to discuss Daniel or acknowledge the investigation into his murder. When police presented evidence of Danny's involvement, Edwina appeared unsurprised yet unwilling to cooperate. She declined witness protection and refused to testify against him. Mental health professionals recognized these reactions as trauma responses. her mind creating protective barriers against unbearable reality. Her silence wasn't complicity but survival. Her brain had constructed a fragile psychological fortress that accusation or testimony might collapse. The news broke like a thunderclap among Edwina's inner circle. She had married Danny Brown, the very man suspected of orchestrating Daniel's murder and her attempted killing. The ceremony occurred without fanfare, witnessed only by a court clerk and Danny's cousin. No family members were invited or informed beforehand. Edwina wore no special dress, carried no flowers, and displayed no joy in the few photographs that emerged. Those closest to Edwina were devastated. Her sister made desperate attempts to intervene, even consulting attorneys about having the marriage annulled on grounds that Edwina was not mentally competent to consent. Friends who had supported her through recovery suddenly found themselves shut out completely. When questioned about her decision, Edwina offered only vague explanations about doing what's best for the children and moving forward. Behind closed doors, the reality was far more complex. Danny had leveraged every vulnerability, her physical weakness, financial insecurity, and most powerfully, her fear for her children's safety. The marriage wasn't a reconciliation but a surrender, a calculated decision made under duress. Edwina's decision, while shocking to outsiders, follows recognizable patterns in trauma bonding, a psychological phenomenon where victims develop powerful emotional attachments to their abusers. This paradoxical connection forms through alternating cycles of abuse and reward, creating a dependency as powerful as any addiction. For Edwina, several factors strengthen this bond. The shared history with Danny, particularly their children, provided a foundation of familiarity during her profound vulnerability. The isolation following Daniel's murder left her without support systems to counter Danny's influence. Most significantly, the extreme trauma of the shooting created a psychological state where safety became defined not by absence of threat, but by predictability of threat. Experts in domestic violence recognize that leaving an abuser is statistically the most dangerous moment for victims. Edwina, having already experienced Danny's lethal response to her independence, made a survival calculation. Controlling the threat through proximity might be safer than risking another, potentially successful murder attempt. Her decision wasn't illogical, but a desperate strategy for survival in circumstances few can comprehend. For 11 years, Edwina lived as Mrs. Danny Brown, navigating a marriage built on fear rather than love. The decade-plus span represented not a partnership, but a prolonged hostage situation, with moments of apparent normalcy masking the underlying reality. The couple moved 3 times during this period, each relocation distancing Edwina further from potential support networks. From the outside, they presented an image of reconciliation and family unity. Danny insisted on their attendance at community events and church services, where they performed the role of devoted couple. He carefully managed their public appearances, ensuring Edwina remained within his sight and controlling which conversation she engaged in. Their home life operated under strict routines established by Danny. Meals, activities, and even sleep schedules adhered to his preferences. The children grew accustomed to walking on eggshells, instinctively monitoring their father's mood shifts. For Edwina, these years represented a delicate balancing act, maintaining enough compliance to prevent violence while preserving some inner core of herself that remained unbroken. Though Danny rarely left visible bruises, his control manifested in countless ways. Financial abuse formed the foundation. Edwina had no independent access to money, with Danny requiring receipts for every purchase and questioning any unexplained expense. Her phone and computer usage were monitored through tracking apps he installed and regularly checked. Social isolation became increasingly severe. Former teammates who attempted to maintain contact found their messages unanswered or received strange, formal responses unlike Edwina's natural communication style. Family visits became rare and were always supervised by Danny, who remained present for every conversation. Neighbors occasionally heard arguments through open windows, Danny's voice raised, Edwina's responses barely audible. Several reported seeing Edwina sitting alone in her car in the driveway, sometimes for hours, as if finding the only private space available to her. When approached, she would quickly compose herself, offering practiced smiles and assurances that everything was fine. The few friends who maintained contact noted her progressive withdrawal, describing her as physically present but emotionally absent during interactions. In early 2023, an unexpected development shattered the precarious equilibrium of the Brown household. Federal agents arrived with a warrant, and Edwina was indicted on serious charges related to child pornography and extortion. The specifics of the case remained sealed, but the implications were devastating for someone with Edwina's public profile and community standing. The legal troubles introduced new power dynamics into the already volatile marriage. Danny positioned himself as Edwina's protector against public shame, controlling the narrative among their acquaintances. Simultaneously, he used the charges as psychological ammunition, reminding her that she now had nowhere else to turn. Who would support someone facing such allegations? The financial burden of legal representation created additional pressure. Their savings quickly depleted, forcing them to sell assets and borrow money from Danny's family members, who attached conditions to their assistance. These financial entanglements further restricted Edwina's options, binding her more tightly to Danny at precisely the moment when escape might have been most crucial. As Edwina's legal case progressed, the atmosphere within the Brown home grew increasingly volatile. Danny's drinking, previously an occasional issue, became nightly routine. His mood swings intensified, with periods of artificial cheerfulness giving way to brooding silence, followed by explosive anger over minor issues, a misplaced remote control, dinner served too late, or children being too noisy. Witnesses later reported seeing Edwina wearing long sleeves despite warm weather, possibly concealing bruises. She stopped attending church altogether, with Danny explaining her absence as stress from the legal situation. Their teenage daughter began spending more nights at friends' homes, while their son grew withdrawn and saw his grades plummet. In March 2023, neighbors noticed increased activity at the Brown residence. Raised voices carrying across yards, doors slamming at odd hours, and once, the sound of breaking glass, followed by a child's crying. A family friend who visited days before the fatal incident described the tension as suffocating, noting that Edwina appeared resigned, like someone who had given up hope. The household had become a pressure cooker with failing safety valves. The final week of Edwina's life was marked by escalating conflict. On March 20th, she attended a preliminary hearing for a federal case, returning home visibly distressed. Court documents suggested the prosecution had strengthened their position, leaving her legal team scrambling for defense strategies. Danny's reaction to this news was explosive. He smashed a kitchen chair against the wall while screaming about the money wasted on lawyers. 2 days later, Edwina contacted her sister for the first time in months, leaving a voicemail that later seemed ominous. "I need to make some changes before it's too late." She never elaborated on what changes she meant. That same day, neighbors observed Edwina packing items into her car, only to unpack everything when Danny returned home unexpectedly. By the weekend, Danny's paranoia had intensified. He accused Edwina of planning to flee with the children, confiscated her car keys, and began checking her phone hourly. The children were sent to stay with Danny's mother, a decision that, in retrospect, may have saved their lives. March 27th began unremarkably. Danny left for work at 7:30, while Edwina remained home, reportedly to prepare for a meeting with her attorney scheduled for that afternoon. Phone records show she made several calls that morning, including one to a domestic violence shelter that lasted 6 minutes. Whether she was seeking refuge or information remains unknown. Danny returned home unexpectedly around 11:45, having left work early, without explanation. Neighbors reported hearing raised voices almost immediately. The argument escalated quickly, with one witness describing a woman pleading, then screaming. At 12:23, the first gunshot rang out, followed by 4 more in rapid succession. The 911 calls flooded in from surrounding homes. First responders arrived within minutes to find the front door ajar. Inside, they discovered Edwina on the living room floor, shot multiple times in the chest and abdomen. Despite immediate medical intervention, her injuries proved catastrophic. She was pronounced dead at 1:17 p.m. at Little Rock General Hospital. the same facility where she had recovered from her previous shooting 11 years earlier. After shooting Edwina, Danny Brown fled the scene in her car, initiating a multi-county pursuit. Police tracked his cell phone to a motel 30 miles outside Little Rock, where he had checked in under his cousin's name. When officers surrounded the building, Danny barricaded himself in a second-floor room, creating a 3-hour standoff that required evacuation of the entire motel. Negotiators attempted to establish communication, but Danny responded only sporadically. At approximately 6:45 p.m., as tactical teams prepared to breach the room, Danny attempted a desperate escape by jumping from the balcony. The 14-foot fall resulted in compound fractures to both legs, immediately immobilizing him and allowing officers to take him into custody without further violence. During transport to the hospital, Danny made several incriminating statements, including telling an officer she was going to leave again. "I couldn't let that happen twice." A search of his vehicle revealed a hastily packed bag containing $10,000 in cash, a passport, and printed directions to the Mexican border, evidence of premeditated plans to flee the country. News of Edwina's murder sent shockwaves through multiple communities. The basketball world mourned the loss of a talented athlete whose career had ended too soon. Former teammates organized a memorial game, with proceeds benefiting domestic violence prevention programs. The WNBA observed a moment of silence before all games that week. In Little Rock, hundreds attended a candlelight vigil, many bringing basketballs that children from local shelters later received. Edwina's former youth program, MAP'd Out, established a scholarship fund in her name specifically for children affected by domestic violence. Perhaps most poignantly, several women came forward after her death, revealing that Edwina had privately counseled them through their own abusive relationships, even while trapped in hers. The investigation into Edwina's murder proceeded swiftly, with overwhelming evidence against Danny Brown. Ballistics matched the murder weapon to a gun registered in his name. Security cameras from neighboring homes captured his arrival and hasty departure. His incriminating statements during arrest provided prosecutors with clear evidence of motive and intent. In September 2023, Danny Brown was charged with first-degree murder, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty. The trial began in February 2024, lasting just 11 days. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict. During sentencing, the judge referenced the earlier murder-for-hire plot, stating that the justice system had failed Edwina once before and would not do so again. Danny received a life sentence without possibility of parole. The federal charges against Edwina were posthumously dismissed after investigators discovered evidence suggesting Danny may have been involved in creating the circumstances that led to her indictment, a final act of control and manipulation that continued even after her death. Edwina's tragedy highlights critical gaps in our protective systems. When Danny escaped conviction for Daniel Hill's murder, no additional safeguards were implemented to protect Edwina, despite her being both witness and victim. The restraining order she briefly obtained proved ineffective, with multiple violations documented but minimally enforced. Mental health support following her trauma was insufficient and discontinued prematurely. Child welfare services never intervened despite documented volatility in the home. Most critically, when Edwina faced federal charges, no one in the legal system recognized the dangerous pressure this added to her already precarious domestic situation. Each system operated in isolation, missing the holistic picture that might have revealed her extreme danger. Edwina's story contains numerous warning signs that everyone should recognize. Extreme jealousy and possessiveness, like Danny monitoring Edwina's whereabouts and controlling her interactions, often precede violence. Isolation tactics, including moving repeatedly and limiting contact with friends and family, serve to remove potential support systems and witnesses. Financial control, restricting access to money, and requiring justification for expenses, creates dependency that makes escape difficult. Technology-based surveillance, through phone tracking and monitoring social media accounts, eliminates privacy and autonomy. Escalation patterns are particularly dangerous. Danny's progression from verbal arguments to property destruction to lethal violence followed a recognizable trajectory. Perhaps most important is recognizing post-separation danger. The period after leaving an abusive relationship represents the highest risk for lethal violence. Edwina's decision to return to Danny after Daniel's murder likely stemmed from accurate recognition of this danger. Understanding these warning signs can help identify high-risk situations before they turn deadly, whether in your own relationship or someone else's. If you recognize these warning signs in your situation or someone else's, resources exist. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233, provides 24-hour confidential support, including safety planning and local referrals. Most communities have emergency shelters that offer immediate protection and transitional housing programs for longer-term needs. Legal aid organizations can help navigate restraining orders and custody issues without prohibitive costs. Many employers now offer domestic violence leave and confidential employee assistance programs. For those supporting loved ones in abusive relationships, organizations like Friends and Family of Domestic Violence Survivors provide guidance on effective, non-judgmental assistance. Remember, leaving requires careful planning and support. Reaching out is the crucial first step. If this story affected you, please like this video and share it. Your single click could reach someone who desperately needs this information. Comment below with your thoughts or experiences. Subscribe to Explosive True Crime Stories for more cases that might save lives. Remember, awareness isn't just educational, it's potentially life-saving.